I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. I am stupid. I pulled my back in the gym today. Give me a minute. I'm gonna make my. I'm making my seat. I almost didn't. I almost decided not to sit here today. I was gonna change the whole camera. I've done this for how many days? 5, 6 weeks now. 7 weeks almost. Oh. Yeah, this is the 6th week doing these videos, and this morning, look at that. I did a good workout today, but man, I have never hurt myself really. Oh, like this. So this is going to be interesting to see if I could even sit 6 hours. Psh, there's a Laker game at like in 3 hours. I might do 3 hours today and then do a little bit over the weekend something. We'll see how I feel. I'm trying to figure out a good way to sit, and then I'll explain what I did. I I got back here. I'll do it linearly. All my stories are always so out of order. Why am I so fuzzy, Shaz? Focus, focus. I can't. Maybe that's me. Let me put on the glasses. Oh, it's the light behind me. Don't even worry about it. So I'm gonna be breathing. This last little bit is definitely gonna be interesting. I have an ice pack in my back right now. I'm gonna do 20 minutes on, 20 minutes off, or we'll do a half hour on, half hour off is what we'll do. Maybe if I got a pillow to take the pressure off my butt, maybe we'll do that. This is a bit of a hard seat. Well, when I lean forward, when I lean back, it's okay. That's what it is. I can't. You cannot bend your back at all. I went to the gym today. I wake up at about 7:30. Go to the gym about 8:30. Work out about 8:40. I stretch 8:45 to 9:15. Girls come in and do their thing 9 to 10. So I'm usually working out around them, and then there's some other dudes or some older dudes today, which is cool. And it's just it is a life lesson. It is what it is. I was you know what I was talking about, I should say what's up to the girls. And then today, the one that I always catch her eye, or like I'm glancing, and when I glance I notice her glancing at me, or once she didn't come in and then she came late, and I kind of looked up and I smiled. I always try to like notice her just a little bit, just like, and then those little things usually lead to something, if they're going to lead to something, and if not, then it was never meant to be. But I was trying to water that garden a little bit, and she today I went to what did I do today? I was doing my new split. If I lean back, I'm cool. And then once this starts numbing my back, I'll explain. I'll catch us all up to now. Now it's like 1:30. 1:30. My new split was backs, shoulders, and legs, and I haven't done deep squats or deadlifts in a couple times. Try not to do those heavy exercises more than like once a week or something. That's the thing about reading Arnold's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding, other stuff. You have a lot of different exercises, Bulgarian split squats. There's so many different ways to target your muscles. Every now and then I'll jump on a machine, but you don't really want to focus only on machines, because your connector muscles might get weak. So as much as you can, free weights, own body movement, your whole body movement, kinetic chain. But those big exercises are important, I think. I always hear deadlift is like the most natural movement you could do as a human being. You're always picking stuff up, so it's good to do that. Let me get to the deadlift. So I was doing, I did legs, backs, and I was ending with shoulders. Try to work from big muscles to small muscles. For the legs, I did the deep squats. I felt really good. Not much. Little baby. My legs aren't small. I think just Mexicans, some ethnicities have larger muscle groups, but we got booties, we got big legs. So, but I'm not the strongest in them, but then I think they gain strength quickly. So I had 25s on each side, and then this time I did 35s, and I want to get back to 45s, and then it'd be nice to eventually get like 2 plates on each side, 3 plates on each side. But you got to work that stuff up. You want to hurt yourself like I just did. So I got 35s on each side, which is nice. 35s plus the bar is like 70, plus the bar is 140, is 45, so that's like 115. And then if, I guess my goal would be to get 2 plates on each side, which is, I think I got to like 55 on each side. I was working towards there. And then you stop and you just lose the strength. So 2 plates on each side would be 90 on each side, which would be 180 plus the bar, which would be like 245, 225. It's pretty good, I think. Just the way I figure, I'm doing these aren't 1 rep max. I never really do that. I should maybe, but I don't want to injure myself. But I usually just do 12, 10, and 8, and then a little bit more, a little bit less. If I feel like I should have gone up in weight, but I'm working on form, I might just do 12, 12, and 12, just to really work on form. If I went up, but I feel like I'm not quite able to do it, I might do like 8 or 10. Sometimes I'll do like 6 or 4, but then I'll try to go down in weight. I want to be able to do at least 8 clean. So that's when I talk about these weights. It's like being able to do 12, 10, and 8 cleanly. So I got up to 35 on each side on the squats, which jumped up 10 pounds over like a week or 2. So that's good. It's like the strength is coming back. And then, what else? And then I did the row in the Smith machine, the barbell row, where you just lean over but that usually makes my lower back a little sore too. You're not really supposed to be using your lower back, but you're stabilizing. You bend over like that, and then your arms come down, and you're like, oh, fuck, I don't know how to do this, but this is your back. You lean over, and then your arms are grabbing the weight up and down. You're going, whoo, whoo, and you bring it up to your belly button. So I did those, and then all of this was in the machine, and then the third exercise, I kneeled in the Smith machine, and I did the overhead press, and that weight's coming up. I started with like 20s on each side, so that's 40, plus the bars, 45. But the machine takes a little bit of the weight off but that's good. I'm working up to form. I don't want to go free weight because I was trying to work back into my exercises. I was trying to be humble, but I fucked it up today. So I was up to 25s today, and when I was working out heavy, I could do 50, 60 in each hand, I think, press. I could do over 100 bar. So with the Smith machine doing some of the work, 25 each side, I wanted that to come up slowly because I got this lingering thing right here. Then what else did I do? And then I moved over for the calf raises, and then for the second back one, I did dumbbell pulling up, whatever you call that, lean over on the bench, and then you grab the dumbbell and you just lift it back. You try to keep I can't move that much, but you try to keep your forearm, or you try to keep your arm, you try to keep your back straight, and you get your arm to come all the way back to where your elbow is up pretty much perpendicular to your back. So you come up to a right angle and lower it. And all these exercises, you want a controlled strong motion and then a controlled negative motion. So you don't really want to jerk it up, but you can get it up, and then as long as you control it down, that's where you're really working the muscle, the negative. So like if you can't do pull-ups, jump up, but then slowly release yourself, and that negative is still tearing muscle in a good way. It's ripping your muscle fibers or whatever you call it, but it's building your muscle. What I did was the bad way today. So that was the second. I do 3 exercises of each muscle group, and then the third, I did the machine, pulling the little leg curl things, but you lay on your stomach and you curl it to your butt, because I figured the squat is the opposite, the deep squat. I was pushing, so now I'm curling. Up to 135 on that, which is decent. So that's gaining. I started at like 110, so I've been gaining some strength in that. And then for the second shoulder, I went to the back, the second back. I was going to do deadlifts. And the deadlifts, I know it's not really, out of all the exercises I do, that and the deep squat are probably the most recent I picked up. I've always kind of neglected those, or I've done other back exercises, good mornings. What else? Mostly upper back. I neglect lower back. I know I neglect my core, and this is why. This injury is like a wake-up call for me as old man Shaz to start paying the fuck attention to my core. My core has always been soft. I've been doing sit-ups. I usually don't do sit-ups, so I don't mind putting on muscle, and then I like to be a little soft. I like that walkabout Shaz to be a little. It's just what I'm used to. A little bit of muscle, but a little bit of softness. But I have some strength and some speed when I need to. But I like to eat, as most potheads do. But I need to get that core stronger because a deadlift, you really have to tighten your core, keep your back straight, and push with your legs. I I've been doing low weights. I did 45s on each side to warm up, and then I added 10 on each. I didn't warm up this time, but I added 10 on each side, so that's like 65 on each side. And this is the square one, so I don't know how much that weighs. Probably like 35 pounds. It's not 45, I don't think. I could look it up, but it would be a bitch to bend over the computer right now. This ice is kicking, and this is good. I put an ice pack in the back of my shorts, and that should numb it and get me through the first half hour, and we'll see how this goes. And I was yeah, so maybe 35 pounds plus 45 on each side plus 10 on each, 65 on each side. So that's 135 plus 35 pounds. So maybe like 170, 180. And if that thing's only 25 pounds, so 170 or 180. I like that because it's a deadlift is you're lifting weight off the ground. So I'm just imagining, man, I could like grab someone who's 180 and just lift them off the ground. It's a nice feeling. That's why when you deadlift like 200, 300, 400 pounds, it's cool to think I can pick up, like, it's also because it's using every muscle in your body basically. So your grip, that's what, when you do it, when I first did it a couple weeks ago, it was actually hard on my hands. My pull-ups are actually, they're coming back too. I could hang for a good like 30 seconds, do my 12 pull-ups, or do 11, and then hang for like another 10 seconds and do that last one. That's what I would, whenever I start my workout, I go and I do 2 feats of strength. I do pull-ups and push-ups just to see how I'm gauging my strength against my own body mass. And it's nice to be able to hang for like a minute or two before you even do any pull-ups, and then do your pull-ups. And then before your last one, you hang for like as long as you can before your grip is about to let go. And then you do one last pull-up, all in a controlled motion. There's one thing to get stronger, but you want to also be getting functional strength. Hanging from stuff is definitely functional strength. So deadlift, last time I tried it about a week or two ago, it was heavy on my hands, it hurt. And then this time I could feel that like when I lift up, it's like bouncy. Like I'm like, yeah, my fucking hands are getting stronger. I could like 180 pounds lifting up with my hands ain't no big deal. That's also comes from like lifting up the weights. Like when I was doing the 65 pull back, it's the more you lift these pounds, 50, 60, 70, every now and then I'll pick up like the 80 or 90 just to put my feet on it when I'm doing the flies. I'll grab a really heavy weight, lift it up once, put it down, but then I could just feel how that feels, because at 80 you could barely pick it up, but eventually I'm going to be bench pressing that thing, so I'm just feeling how it's feeling lighter and lighter every time I pick it up. So that like 170, 180 pounds or whatever was feeling lighter. I was like, this is good. But the cockiness, so 3 reasons why I think I hurt myself today. The girlies, one of them that I've been kind of, I don't know, if I was going to talk to someone, it'd probably be her. And I kind of smile and stuff, just not creepy stuff, but just like, I try to keep to myself. But if I'm working somewhere, sometimes she ends up in my field of vision. Or so like today I was doing the rows, one-handed rows, I guess, dumbbell rows. And then she was like right there next to me. I was like, are you using this bench? She was like, no. But like she smiled at me. I was like, all right, that's a step. That's not because we're both working out. It's not a name. It's not a conversation. But we're not strangers now. It's been like fucking 5 weeks. Shaz is really slow rolling this. But it's because I have no money to take anyone out anyways. But within the next week or two, I might get some Christmas money. Or I might get some book money. Who knows? I might get something. But before I leave my folks' place or while I'm here, it'd be nice to do something with someone and be a normal adult. I've been a hermit for a minute. No, I said that about the Tinder thing, and then I did that, and then that was funny. So I have to be careful about what I want, make sure that whatever I put in the atmosphere is actually what I want. This whole process has been very interesting for me, observing myself and my thoughts. I can't even remember all the stuff I've said, but I've said a lot over the last 5 weeks. It's going to be very educational to look back at this, but as long as it's all sincere and honest as I can be in the moment, and I'm trying to be more and more honest. I notice I'm being more and more vulnerable as I keep doing this. Then it'll correct towards truth. But Yeah, so I had that. I had like a really good pump going on because these are big muscles you're working out, the squats and the back. So I was sweating. I sweat a little bit, but I was like dripping today. I was doing good. And you feel good. You're like, I'm fucking busting my ass. I'm like breathing hard. And then I'm doing the deadlift, which is the second to last. And I'd done 2 reps. I was on my third rep. And the girls were behind me. So I had that in my mind. I was tired. You shouldn't do an exercise that's you should warm up, but I don't think I should put an exercise that requires that much concentration on the end of a really hard workout because it was like all it takes is your back to curve just a little bit. I didn't tighten my back, so that was it was form, it was a distraction because I was like, I think she smiled at me. I think it's one of those things that it might be in my mind, but I was like, you using this pen? She was like, no, and then but we never, I don't know, whatever. This is how cute things like later on when you meet someone, you're like, I wanted to talk to you. And they're like, I wanted to talk to you. But whatever. The personal trainer who trains these guys, it's like 8 or 9 girls and maybe 1 or 2 dudes every now and then. Then the personal trainer, he's been saying hi to me every morning. I guess he's trying to like be normal too. Because like you work out with people, like it's been like a month and a half now that we've all been having pretty much the same schedule. They motivate me, and I think I motivate them because I bust my ass every time I work out. So might as well be cool with them. But that's what it is. It's arrogance too. It was a girl distraction. It was the arrogance of like I'm fucking Shaz doing my thing. I don't need to be talk to people because we're all a part of this world. Sometimes I get too much in my head, and I should just. People have a resting bitch face. I have a resting fuck you face sometimes where I'm just like really grinding and I just grunt and just kind of like stare through people, and that makes people uncomfortable sometimes. But sometimes it's really good at like when I don't want to talk to people, I'm pretty good at letting the world know that I'm off limits. But it's a YMCA. The point of having a YMCA membership is because we get that's what's I do that's why I soften up around the old timers. If there's like an older guy working around me or even an older lady, I try to like say something or they say something and encourage them because that's cool. I think that's awesome. Oh, young guys too. There's this young guy who works out sometimes, and sometimes I'll be stretching next to him or something. So I'm not a complete dick, but I think I was dickish. I think I was distracted by the girls, especially the cute one that like fucking I said what's up to, and I said 2 words too actually, and then the form, and so I'm lifting this dead weight, that deadlift, and it was light. I was being humble. I thought I was like I could do more, but I was like no, let's make sure I got the form right because I don't want to fucking hurt myself. So I fucking yeah, because this is the same weight I did. I went up in all my other exercises, but with this one I'm like let's just make sure I'm doing it right. I was doing probably like more of a Bulgarian type. I wasn't going all the way down, but right there. So when, that's why you fucking probably go all the way down so you can like kind of drop it. But the way I was doing it, I stop it with my back, I guess. So when I let it down, there's a little bit of a jerk because I'm not touching the ground with it. If I'm just doing with the legs and I'm low with the legs, there's probably less of a jerk. But since if you look at the form on a deadlift, when you lift it up, I was letting it down, but I wouldn't let it touch the ground because I didn't want to make that much noise. I didn't want to. That's like ego lifting when you're throwing weights around. But with the deadlift, I guess that's a fucking smart thing to do. Just kind of let it drop and guide it, but I was stopping it before it hits the ground and then going back up into another rep. So that's a little bit of a jerk. So it was like my third fucking, what was it? I forget reps and sets. But my third set, 8 reps. I was like on number 6, almost done. And then I hear a pop pop, just like that. And anyone who's ever fucking done any type of sports or exercise just know that like popping isn't good. Like it was like pop pop. Like not like firecracker pop, like fucking elastic band like pop, bubble wrap pop, like Kobe Bryant when he says he tore his Achilles pop. You just hear a loud snap, and you're just like, you just know that like that your body's not supposed to snap. Like it's kind of like that, but more of like that was like air. So that's knuckles, that's bones. It's kind of like that, but it's more like you can. It's a muscle tear or something else. But I looked it up, so I fucking I was doing the fucking rep, conscious of the fucking girls behind me, doing their stretches and shit. And then it goes bop bop, and I fall on my ass. When shit like that happens, you let go of the weights. I just literally fall backwards, like boom. And I didn't even fucking look around or anything. But I was like, you just immediately I done fucked up. So I mean, you immediately feel pain. It's debilitating, and you take a deep breath, and you're like, no one's gonna fucking, no one's gonna carry you off the fucking court like LeBron James with cramps and shit. Like, I love him, he's on the Lakers, but there's reasons why people don't like LeBron James. It's like, I don't know what's going on with his body. I shouldn't shit talk that guy, but yeah, in my mind, I got like the Kobe Bryant tore his Achilles. You just take that deep breath, you walk up and you shoot those free throws. So I took a deep breath. I was like, if I just walk straight out of here, I'm gonna look like I hurt myself. So I took a deep breath. I took a bunch of deep breaths. I just kept breathing deep, and I just fucking, without bending as much as possible, I lowered down and I took the weights off the cage thing, off the square thing with handles. 10 on one side, 10 on the other side, 45 on one side. But when I grabbed the 45s, I lifted with my arm. I could fucking lift 45 pounds with my arm. And then I just very slowly put everything back. And then I grabbed the fucking bar, very slowly put it back. And then usually I end my exercise by doing 2 sets of sit-ups. Incline sit-ups on the incline bench, or whatever you call it, but the thing where you put your legs in and you lay back and you're almost vertical like that. And then, you're like this. Your legs are tucked up here, and then you go. I don't know why I use my hands to try to describe stuff. It just makes stuff more complicated. But you hook up your legs and you're laying almost vertically down, and I do those sit-ups usually. I bust my ass on that, bust my ass on normal crunches just to get a nice little. I don't know. I never do sit-ups, and I've been doing it now, and I've actually noticed a difference. It's nice to have a six-pack, but it hides the fat a little bit as I put on a little bit of weight while I eat a lot to put on muscle. The stomach muscle sort of sculpts it a little bit, but no, not today. Today I did that, fell on my ass, and I was like, I just breathe. And the pain's starting to come really bad, and you're just like, I just need to get home before this really tightens up, before I could, because I had appendicitis, and I drove myself to the hospital with an appendix about to burst, with pain so bad I was vomiting every 15 minutes, where I was just trying not to vomit on the way to the hospital. They saw me when I walked in, a room full of emergency people, and they brought me immediately to a bed and shot me with morphine. I went straight into surgery. They were like, yeah, it was about to burst. That's what, if your appendix bursts, you have toxic shit, you have septic, whatever you call it, but like, it's a ticking time bomb, and then you die. So this wasn't that, and I've dealt with that, and that was the worst pain I ever felt in my life, easily, by far. That was like, when they say kidney stone, whatever, it was like shut your whole body and life down. Like, you start meditating. The highest form of pains become spiritual, so that's why I don't fear them, because you just go with it. You're just like, this is what I'm doing. If you're hurting, you're alive. So so like, you breathe into it. It's interesting times in your life that you can put your philosophy into action. I wrote earlier this year that breath dilutes pain. And does. When it's carrying you away or when it's too much, you go back to your breath. Breathe into it, and you're there with it. You don't want to ignore it, because it's your body telling you what's going on. I've never believed in ignoring pain lessons. I've been hit because I probably deserve to get hit before. I've done stupid stuff. When life gets you on the chin, you just got to be like, what can I learn from this? I've given money back. When we were talking about business, what is this, 23 minutes? I have like 2 things to talk about this video too. I can't lean into the computer to look at the time now. Yeah, I'll talk about giving money back, because we're talking about real estate so much. Around this time, when I was working for that guy who tried to shake me down for the other half of the commissions I owed him because I left before a year. These kids were like, I rented them an apartment, and roommates, one of the reasons I stopped working with roommates. 2 roommates. It was like a $3,500 apartment. It was a decent fee. It was like, did I charge them 1 month or 15%? Probably 15%. So 1.8 times 3,500. So that's 3,500 plus 80% of 3,500. Subtract 20%. So that's minus 700. So that's 2,800 plus 3,500. That's $6,300, right? That's a nice fee, $6,300 minus a $500 transaction fee. I'm still making 5,800 off of that. Um, that's probably one of the ones. No, no, because I didn't keep this money. That's not anything. So I the kids are like NYU financial students, and they're from California. They don't know how New York works. I'm just learning how New York works, and they're like I rent them an apartment with a small landlord. So we're lucky. They wouldn't have found this on their own. Maybe they could have found it on their own. But they need people. This is where brokers really help. We got the connections. Someone I reached out to other, especially when you're young in a business, you're reaching out to everyone. So someone turned me on to this landlord. I found him. I got the access. You have to go through the super. So that's another reason why some of these guys won't find him, is that the supers don't like dealing directly with people. Sometimes they want brokers who have qualified the kids. Otherwise, they'll be showing the apartment 100 times. So they want like serious people because they have a job to do as a super. And this super was managing multiple buildings. But the landlord was nice, very nice landlord, small landlord based out of Long Island. So a lot of New York is these small landlords. So there's these big families, but a lot of these guys are just, they own a couple buildings, maybe like a 5 or 10, but they manage them and they keep an eye on them. And those guys are the best guys because they price a little bit below market because they don't want empty apartments. And so they want their pick of who goes in there. These kids had excellent guarantors. They were out of state though. Not everyone accepts out of state guarantors. California. So the landlord didn't mind. Also, their parents were landlords themselves. They owned property in California. So I had to make sure that the landlord. So it took a little bit of negotiation. We had to show the landlord that like the parents don't have salary income, which landlords really want that salary. So I had to show tax returns showing their revenue is 80 times their rent. And also sometimes landlords won't come by and guarantors because they know that if one roommate leaves, or a roommate, that's what happens with roommates, especially in college. You have a falling out. So they want to make sure that at least one of the guarantors can cover the whole apartment. So both of them have to make 80 times the rent. If you're renting an apartment in New York, it's 40 times. The rule of thumb is 40 times rent should be your salary, and then 80 times rent for the guarantor. So for like a $3,500 apartment times 80, what is that? That's 240,000. If it's $3,000 plus another 40,000, so $280,000. Both of them had, and both of them did. So both kids had parents who made over $280,000. And that's what's interesting. Coming from Occupy Wall Street and then coming into this business, I get to see how the real world operates. When you're in Manhattan, most people are either making, not most people, because there's a lot of people who lived in Manhattan when it wasn't like this. But this is a character of Manhattan, what it's becoming now. This is because of Bloomberg, because of the economy, because of people who are making our society, are making enclaves for the very well off, and fuck everyone else pretty much, is what it seems like. The general trend. So most people coming into Manhattan have to be making 100,000, 80, but usually 100, and that's just starting out. If you want a $2,000 apartment, 25. I'd be making 140, 160 before I got into the neighborhood I wanted to. That took me a couple years. But yeah. So and then the kids, their parents have to be making over 200. So that's the type of people who move into these neighborhoods. And then I think that's kind of why you get these monocultures. It's very similar types of people. They all love it because they all got their buddies, and people tell me so much. Oh, I run into people from high school or college all the time. Yeah, because you all come from a very small class of people. The rest of us fucking... I ran into random people from my high school, but they were the ones who both of them went to graduate school. One of them's a lawyer, just got his law degree, and the other one's in his MFA program. So those are the ones I run into in Manhattan. You don't run into fucking the dude working at your local Quickie Mart down the street in your college in your hometown. He didn't make it to Manhattan. Manhattan is where people who win at this whole game that we're playing make it. That's another reason why I liked real estate and I was doing it. I wanted to prove that I could win. It's like, all right, you guys all fucking told me to get a job. You beat my ass, NYPD. You didn't respect our protest. I haven't sold any of my writing. All of my pipe dreams have been just that, pipe dreams, and no one takes them seriously. I don't take them seriously. I'm still figuring out if I'm insecure, if these things are worth me continuing doing. So I was like, all right, let me fucking do what everyone else is doing and just prove that I can fucking do it. And I'm proving it, getting these paychecks, decent paychecks. And I'm also peeking my head into the club of money. It's like, all right, and I'm seeing how they act and how their children act. Not just one instance. I had like about 15,000 contacts over my 5 years and a couple hundred transactions. So I have a decent sample size if I was an anthropologist discussing the current generation that moves to Manhattan. I jumped right in the middle of it across probably over 100 different industries, my clients. Bank statements, tax returns, what they do, conversations. My clients, we did business because we like each other. So we have normal conversations. Most of them are, I'm not saying they're bad people, but I have my finger, I think, on the pulse of the current generation, at least as it has to do with current metropolitan areas. Manhattan's very similar. The rental market's not, but the types of people, these guys go from San Francisco, LA, Manhattan, Miami, all of these international cities too. I had a lot of people from London, Singapore. But these kids, I get them the apartment, amazing apartment. If you have a 2-bedroom, it's opposite bedrooms, big living room, and then a big kitchen separate. So you have 4 rooms. In New York, that's usually you have just a living room with a little forgettable kitchen off to the side. This was a separate kitchen, big enough to put a dining room table, and then completely separate living room, which was like 12 by 12, huge in New York standards. And then each bedroom could fit a queen-size bed plus furniture. And they were on opposite sides of the apartment, and they both had windows. This sounds like normal shit, but in New York, these are like buy. Like the only bad thing was it was a walk-up. But the fact that they both had windows, it would be great light. So if you're a young person moving to New York, go for the high floor walk-ups because you're going to get a 10-20% discount on your rent because you're eliminating the lazy people or the older people. I was in a 5th floor walk-up, but I paid $2,600 for a really good apartment. When I got evicted, she charged $3,200 for the incoming tenant. Totally illegal, but neither here nor there. I'll deal with my landlord or my ex-landlord when I have the bandwidth for her. You're only allowed to raise rent a certain amount. They illegally raised rent to get me in, and then they illegally did it for the following person. But that is not my priority right now. She evicted me, and we have an open discussion, as Shaz would say. I have many open discussions in my life. The honorable have long memories. But these kids were like, 32 minutes. But this is a real estate story. This is relevant. These kids were like, people when they're young, they think they need to be fucking tough dumbass, especially like these finance kids. That's why I guess they're doing finance. They think dog eat dog, blah blah blah. I got it. So I'm being nice and I try to be cool with people, but they fucking that's what you start to learn. That's what New York, any industry, but New York in general, and then I would say like any sales job, stocks, any market with a lot of competition, a lot of brokering, where you live and die by your commission, you learn to judge character really quickly. You learn your philosophy of sales, which I started to learn. All right, deal with fucking people of quality character. So like these kids later on in my career, as soon as they gave me attitude, I would have been like, I would even try to tighten them up. Like, all right, we're going to have to follow the instructions or else I'm not going to be able to help you guys. Because we're going to be going through some things that if you don't take my guidance, then I'll be doing you a disservice. Just stuff like that. You could frame it that way. But what you're basically saying is it's my way or the highway. There's one professional in the room, and then there's one client. You're paying me for a service, and I can't do that service if you override me. So you're going to have to either trust me, and you're going to have to decide that now in the first consultation, or keep my number and advice. That's my go-to line. Advice is always free. Keep my number. I'd be happy to consult with you, but I don't think it's a good fit. You don't fit my client profile. It's a very polite way to say, go fuck yourself. I'm sorry, I don't think you fit my client profile. I don't want us to be frustrated. I don't want to frustrate you. I think trying to work together would frustrate each other. Understand. I don't know if I'd use a broker. You're a lot like me. You're trying to solve your own problem. I get it. And if you want any advice, I just can't afford to spend my time with you, is what it is. I have to only take out people who actually need my service. It sounds like you're doing good on your own, and I wish you the best of luck. Just so many polite ways to say, go fuck yourself. But so these kids gave me a lot of indicators, but I was just like, when you're young in the business and you're hungry, and I'm living in the fucking hostel with crazies and some cute girls, I was like, all right, I need to get out of here. Or no, I need to get whatever I can. But that's what, yeah, it's really hard to be successful in life when you're really hungry. That's when you start learning. I never learned how to save for my life, but for my business, I always had some money in my pocket, so I didn't really need it. I always planned for the month. I ran my business well. I didn't run my personal life well, but you have to have a little bit of fuck you. Like, fuck you money is like to life, but I had fuck you client money. Like, I always kept enough cash in my pocket where I noticed that at Bond, New York, there's this guy. There's like two stories. We got however many hours I'm going to do today. And then we're going to wrap up with those kids. Bond, New York, we had that glass office in front. I don't think I mentioned that. I mentioned that the other video. We had a glass office in front. Yeah, because then I left Bond, so I won't mention this if I don't mention it now. A conference room. So you have 50 or so agents behind in the whole office, all calling and everything and doing stuff. But when people have clients come in, they go to the conference room and it's in the front of the office near the door and it's glass. So everyone can see them interacting with clients. And then Douglas is way in the back, but he has a glass office too. And he could see all the way in the front of the conference room. So we could see if shit's going down. And if you're a salesperson, it's like any competitive sport. It's awesome when shit goes good. When LeBron James shoots a fuck you 3 from half court and it just demoralizes the other team, everyone's like, man, that's the man right there. That is. But also when someone fails at the highest level too, everyone's like, oh, it's entertaining either way. So, and I'm proud too. So when my clients come in, some agent told me, he was like, man, David at the time, he's like, man, David, your clients are like well-behaved children when they come in. They're like, excuse me, Mr. David, can I sit here and can I get a glass of water? And they're like so polite. And I'm like, yeah, you fucker. He put it so perfectly. We were all drinking after on one weekend or something. It was like a Friday. We're closing out the office. All the people who have deals, people who are making money. And we're just like, yeah, that's why I always told people too. People say they're good. I'm like, what'd you make? Don't fucking brag to me. Show me a paycheck. Any decent paycheck I got, I'd take pictures. So when people fucking run their mouth, I'm like, what'd you make? This is what I made. You did 10,000 this month? Because I'm looking for the people who are actually making money. And I also want to make money. So I run my mouth, but I try to back it up. And then there's so many people in sales, in life in general. And I've done sales all my life. I know that everyone's going to talk, but some of these guys are really eating. Everyone else has just made one deal 3 months ago and they're still fucking living off of that. So this guy was like, we were all getting drunk and he was like, David, your clients, though, they're well behaved. They respect you. And I'm like, yeah, I don't bring him in if they don't. So you have that first conversation and you say, look, this is the way it's going to be or else we can't get nowhere. And so when I went in that glass room, you could see, you have to come and you have to control the energy and everything. You're not in a bad way, not in like a taking advantage of people way, but in there has to be one. You're supposed to be the professional if you're doing like this type of consultation. And especially when you first start out, it's hard because you're not, but you eventually learn how to be. That's why you have to live it and breathe it. And that's what I think I read somewhere about stocks too. You just got to breathe the market until it becomes second nature. And so I was just, every night I was still looking up all of our databases and trying to figure out this landlord neighborhood relation. I remember going to McDonald's overnight just to build ads and just be like, understand value. And then you have to understand your market because that's when people contact you and they come to the city. I started to realize all my little notes I was taking at this time was like, oh, you're getting paid for the value that you provide. I was starting to internalize the ethical sale. That I'm not stealing people's money because otherwise you won't be able to ask for the commission. When you ask for $5,000, you have to believe that you're worth it. It's like I've saved you time and effort and got you the best apartment. And then I brought that glass box up because other people who are learning, I'm learning on my own, but there's other people who still have trainers for 3 months, 6 months. And they bring clients in who they haven't really qualified. And then at the lease signing, the clients are being revealed that there's a fee. And if you weren't told that there's an extra $5,000 fee for you getting this apartment and you thought you were just going to pay $3,000 first plus $3,000 deposit, so you only were planning on paying $6,000, but you really have to pay $11,000. That's a little bit of a sticker shock, even if you have it. And that's what you realize too, is you start to understand your client profile, that these people have it. That's what, when I talk to them on the phone, even when they're not so sure about the fee, well, no, that's actually me being sloppy. But sometimes I would be like, all right, it sounds like they're qualified. I'll prove my value. And then later on, and some of my reviews, people told me I wasn't planning on paying a fee, but Shaz did a really excellent job. Um, but I mean, I would pay a broker if I come into New York with real cash and I want the best apartment and I want a certain type of apartment. If you want a job well done, you, that's what I would use all these lines on people. It's if you want quality, you got to pay for it. Or else, why are you living in Manhattan? Go live in Jersey or live in Brooklyn. You came to Manhattan because it's an expensive place to live, but it's where successful people live. If you want to be successful and want to get the best apartment, I'm insurance. I'm going to ensure that you get the best apartment because we're going to cover the whole market. I have access to tools and I have the experience to do something that you can't really do on your own. Not as good as I can. But you can only say that after like 4 or 5 years doing it. The first couple of years, I'm doing my best, but I'm doing more of the earnest sale. And then after you get some experience under your belt, you can do the professional sale. But so they would bring the bad clients in, and then there's this one trainer specifically. I saw him do it. I asked him. He was good. He's a guy who really is making money, wearing really nice suits. I never suited up, but he's always wearing really nice suits. I remember he came up to the office once in a rented car. He told me he was doing like some trip down south to visit family. You could tell the guys who are making money because they take time every now and then to do them. Like I would tell people when I go to the Caribbean, I'm like, I'm just taking 2-4 weeks off just to do me. But and then when I lived in the village too, when people like they act like they're making money, I'm like, where do you live? Queens? Ah, you making so much money, you're living in Queens? Oh yeah, but you're probably saving money, right? Not many. I was living the lifestyle. I was renting apartments in my neighborhood because I was making as much or more than my clients. So I was who I said I was. But anyways, so this dude was who he says he was. That's why he was a trainer and he had a team and this and that. And I was like, why? I saw you go in there, and I saw you argue with your trainee, and then I saw you argue with the client, and then I saw you walk out. And he was like, the trainee didn't tell him there was a fee. And then the client said they're not going to pay a fee. I was like, but why didn't you walk out? I was like asking him his logic. Why didn't you try to save the deal? And he was like, I tell them how it is. And if they push back, I want to be the first one out that door. And I was like, I really like that type of confidence, that type of like, I'm like, if you really questioning because people hit you, when you put that much effort into your job, and a lot of people think that, oh, we shouldn't pay these fees and this and that. It's market dynamics. There's landlords, this is what I would explain to people. You have to pay for the labor. And a landlord owns tens of millions of dollars or more of property. It's not worth his time to rent it himself. So who's doing the labor of drawing up the leases, showing the apartments, qualifying you, making sure you have the proper documents and this and that? There's a lot of labor involved. Secretarial labor, judgment labor, which only comes from experience in doing this, to troubleshoot whether you're a good or a bad tenant based on credit. It's like underwriting. A good real estate broker becomes an underwriter of risk, tenant risk, because we've seen all these experiences. And just from like a 5-minute conversation before we see your paperwork, we could figure out if your story's lining up or if you're a bullshitter, which is going to be A, B, or C or problem. There's so many different little problems you can have. There's this girl who was running a doggy daycare out of her apartment, and that was so many liabilities for the landlord. And I'd never heard of that before. I was like, not just her own dog, she's running like 10 dogs through there a day, just tearing up the whole apartment, and then the barking, and then the shitting and everything else, and they couldn't get rid of her. That's all. I had a lady who didn't pay rent. I put her in an apartment. She didn't pay rent for 6 months. And then she said, oops. And then she wrote a rent check for the whole thing. But after I personally, because my clients, I try to be friends with them. She is a German, and she got it for her daughter. And I took her out to lunch. I thought she was good people. Old money from Germany. And as we talked to her, I think we had a thing. She was telling me how she got her hair done and this and that. And we talk. Once we do the apartment thing, we just talk about life. And that's why I try to, when you're successful, 10% of my money or whatever, if I'm making $1,000, $2,000 on it, I'm making at least $2,000 on a deal, then I can afford to spend $100 on the client. I will pay for all the cabs usually. I spend easily $100 a day in cabs if I'm running all over the city. So yeah, $50 lunch between the two of us isn't a big deal. But so I texted her. I was like, they said they haven't received any rent. The other broker, we knew each other after a couple of years. You know everyone, or a lot of people. It was like, yo, what's up with your client? Because I usually have good people. And I'm like, what? She's not paying rent. So I told her, I was like, did this slip your mind? And then she just sent one check for the whole thing. But I think they changed their mind on the apartment. They were just going to ditch out on it. And then they were Airbnb-ing it. Like, the daughter probably changed her mind, didn't like it. Money issues. I mean, not money issues, but people with money issues. The daughter's like, oh, it's not for me. And then the mom probably wasn't going to pay it. And I texted her. I was like, you need to. And then she just sent a check to cover it. She sent me pictures from her vacation in Hawaii. After we did the deal, she was sending me pictures of her in Hawaii and being like, oh, I'm on the beach. Read into that what you will, right? But the mom, craziness. You deal with, like, you're like, oh, there's certain aspects to wealth. So anyway, so these kids. Oh, so, well, I wanted to bring up, so that guy was like, I tried to beat him out the door. And that's what, I've always kept that in my head. If people are giving you, I try to be the first to hang up. Well, no, not that, because I really like trying to keep assholes on the phone. So I like all those polite ways to say fuck you. But if they're in person, if they're saying, oh, I'm not sure about brokering, or I'm not sure if, and then you realize, oh, you don't value the service I provide, despite us trying to qualify each other before we got to this point, then I try to be like, look, it doesn't sound like it's a good fit, and I wish you the best. But try to be the first one out the door is a good way to. You have to maintain your integrity and your pride and your dignity. That's what it is, dignity. You can't sell shit if you don't have dignity, because then people will walk all over you. You can't represent clients because the other brokers will walk all over you and your clients, and you can't represent yourself because you'll always be. This is stuff that I care a lot about because I've seen my parents go through it my whole life. I've seen brokers who work with my parents, the dude who fucking embezzled money from their company. He's just a strong personality, and so I knew from when I was young that, like, I don't walk around with a hot head, but I could get up when I need to get up, because sometimes you need to match someone's energy. So, like, sometimes when people try to step to you in life or in business or whatever, you got to meet them on their terms, and you got to be like, well, we could communicate in whatever language you want. But my language is chill. But if you want to stop speaking your language, I know them all. I practice them all. Fucking, and I hurt myself sometimes practicing them. This back is feeling okay. I think I could do 6 hours. I'm just gonna. Oh shit, 47 minutes. I should take it out. The thing is, you don't want to keep ice on it. I've been Googling all morning. That's how I found out it's a tear probably. It's gonna be okay. I've hurt myself before. This is just one of the bad ones. It's a warning in life. It's very timely for me to end the videos with a lesson in humility. I've been walking around Shaz beating his chest all year, and I got one. If you stop learning how to be humble, if you stop being able to be humble, that's probably the biggest fatal error in life. That's what I hope Conor McGregor isn't fucking falling into. Like, he got caught by Khabib. Give him credit. Fucking move on. Get better. You can't. Once you stop being humble, that's your only self-corrective mechanism. We only shatter against ourselves. This is all me. This is my fucking arrogance. This is my, like, little touch from fucking fate. Like, Shaz, slow your roll, and slowly but surely, yeah. Look, this is probably what it was. It's probably one of these guys. That's the pop, I think. 2 pops. Pop, pop. Which makes me feel better because look how many attachments there are. 2 pops doesn't mean I did a herniated disc or anything like that. They say without numbness or anything else. It's just a tear. I've torn muscles before. I stepped on a wine stem glass and it took 6 months to heal fucking because that was a deep tissue fucking. That's like being stabbed. A stab wound. So this is, I think a week or 2 I'll be good. I think about, like, this athletes, part of being an athlete is recuperation, because you're probably going to face an injury. So this is just an injury. I've injured myself before. I've broken bones. It's silly, but this is, when they say don't lift with your back, I always kind of laugh. Like, I've never had a back injury. Well, this is a warning that I need to strengthen that core. I'm going to be doing, I always, like, laugh about yoga. I did it a little bit, but I need to do that core yoga, Superman stretches. I contacted my ex. I was like, I know you don't really want to talk to me right now. She's like a occupational therapist, which is like a physical therapist. I was like, it's like 2 girlfriends back. We're not on the best terms. I started talking about stuff that I don't know. Sometimes you dialogue with people who that's maybe not how they want to process the relationship. And so she was like, I don't know if we should be talking so much right now about stuff. It's still really raw. So I was like, I know you don't really want to hear from me, but like, what could I do? And she gave me some tips. She was like, be well. She told me some tips on how to figure it out. I'll only know the extent by tomorrow. I think this type of stuff will be like delayed onset muscle fatigue. It'll take probably like 48 hours for the real pain to set in, and then I'll know what I'm working with. But that might be it for this year's working out. I might take the next 1 or 2 weeks off. We'll see. Sitting doesn't take much of your back, but it does take some. So these kids, I get them that apartment, and then they're like, yeah, beautiful apartment. And then the boiler, we had a early winter that year. It was 2013 probably. So this probably like, no, 2012, right before I went to Puerto Rico, was at that 100% company right after I left Bond. But with this stuff still fresh in my mind. And we had a flash freeze. It was November, but temperatures dropped below freezing overnight, and it busted the boiler in the building. And when I showed the kids the apartment, it was a beautiful apartment, but they had to use their imagination. They were getting a great deal, but it's because it wasn't finished yet. And the kids started, no, it wasn't even that, it was September. I could probably look this up historically, because they were starting school, and it was in August. Yeah, because school started in September and they needed a place to live in September. Or no, maybe it's the other way. Maybe they were moving in together for the dorm. Now that it's one of these. It's probably that. And yeah, school started in September. They needed a place to live in September. So we had that flash freeze. The boiler burst in the basement, and the super or whoever was working on the renovation, they still had to put the appliances in the kitchen, put down floor. The walls were a little torn open. They had to close out the walls. The kids were like, is this going to be done in 3 weeks? It was like 3 weeks to go or something within the month. I was like, yeah. And I pointed out, after doing apartments for a while, you start to learn how long stuff takes. I was like, most of the stuff's cosmetic. Once they finish up the walls, everything else you put in the appliances and the floors, this is like a week for that, we're done. And we have a week to spare. But, and you could see the appliances were already there. They just weren't unwrapped. But then they had that flash freeze. The boiler burst in the building, and the landlord. I had been talking with him, and I made an error here. Just like I fucked up my back. You take it on the chin and you learn from life. That was the whole point of this. The lesson is the landlord. I was talking to him in Long Island. Ernest Chaz. People usually like me and my approach in business. He was like, I got him to accept these kids, first of all, because their parents didn't have salary income, but they're landlords. I was like, look, the parents do the same thing you do. We have the money in the bank. We have the tax returns. We just don't have that salary. He's like, all right. And the credit was good. No, the credit, we had issues, I think, on one of the credits. But then he was like, hey, I'm really sorry, but we're not going to hit that move-in date because I have to put all my resources into fixing this. Because that's the biggest thing, water damage in these buildings, and a boiler burst in the basement, so you have a whole building full of people with no hot water and probably water damage in the basement. And he just had to take all of the, and he's a small landlord, all of the resources, all his construction guys and everything, and throw it at this problem. And he's like, we gotta push it back 2 weeks. I need to deal with this first. And the kids start losing their shit. And I was telling the kids, I was like, you have a great apartment. You have a landlord who made some exceptions to take you. You don't have. There's a lot of landlords out there who won't accept your out-of-state guarantors, won't accept your parents' income, because with these properties and stuff, just because you own millions of dollars in property, if we can't show the cash flow, landlords only care about cash flow. They don't. You could be sitting on, sometimes even if you have a trust or anything, they're like, I want to see W-2. I want to see normal stuff. That's just from doing this so many times. If they get problems from certain types of clients, they just start not liking those certain types of clients. So over 700 credit, W-2 letter of employment that shows you're making over 40 times rent, and over 5 months, 10 months worth of rent in the bank. All of that is like A+, rubber stamp, because those are the people who don't cause any issues. All the ones that get complicated are the ones that cause issues. The income was kind of complicated, this and that. So every time you make an exception, the landlord knows that he's increasing his chance of just a headache. And one bad tenant ruins the profitability of a building. It's a lot of money going into that you see coming out of those rents, but when you break down all the money, the city, 30% of the revenue comes from real estate taxes. So there's a lot of money that the landlords are paying to the city for capital improvements, this and that. They're killing it in the good times, but if they're not putting it away, then they're going to lose their buildings in the bad times, because the bad times could be just as long as the good times. And I know a lot of landlords like that. They overextend themselves, and you just have to sell the building. The building could be like a credit card. You max it out, and then in a bad time, you can't pay the credit card. You have a building that's worth 10 million, but you've leveraged it to hell. And now if you can't fill those apartments, now you can't pay your payments on your credit card. Any asset out there, you'll have a lender out there willing to lend against that asset in order to eventually foreclose on that asset. That's the con of the world. And that's why it's good to do business. So you can see that this pattern replicates itself on municipal bond bubbles that we're in right now. Municipal debt is through the roof. On personal household finance bubbles, on mortgage, the mortgage bubble we had. Any asset class can be leveraged, over leveraged. And that's what the lenders do, isn't it? Sometimes they go after markets just to target the eventual foreclosure. They go after the municipalities just to target the eventual privatization of the roads or the water supply or whatever else that they could privatize. You don't think these guys went in there with a plan? Oh yeah, let's overextend the credit, knowing that these municipalities will just it'll keep them elected. And that's how we got a muni debt bubble in the beginning. We don't even talk about that in the news, but whatever. Neither here nor there. So these kids are freaking out. And then I'm telling them, yo, just chill. You got a really good fucking apartment. But I obviously wasn't forceful enough. Still learning how to manage my children. And somehow, in the email exchanges back and forth, the landlord and the kids, I accidentally let the kids have the landlord's number. I forwarded an email or something trying to show, like, look, this is also where you learn how to control communications. Somehow I was trying to be like, the landlord is trying. Listen to him. Look, he's trying to do a good job. And you learn later on how to be a good broker. No, there's a reason why you're the referee in between these parties. That wasn't me being lazy. That's lazy when you just I'm trying to show them the landlord's words to back it up. You learn to fight those battles at the very front. You create that firewall. And these are all little life lessons that you learn through business. That's why I respect business. Have a word, stick to it, and you start that firewall at the beginning, and that's where we fight it. I'm complicating the landlord's life. I'm complicating these kids' life by making them feel more empowered than they are, and that's a problem. And so what they did is we're just going to end this, and then the next video, I guess, we'll catch up on what we have to do. I'll take a walk around my house real quick. The next, I'll get some more ice packs. The kids called the landlord, and they're like, this is unacceptable, and we need to go to school. We're starting school in 2 weeks, and our dad's a landlord, blah, 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 da, da, da. The landlord called me. He was like, I don't want him in my building. No. They called me, and they ran their mouth. No. And we had signed leases, and I had put the money in my bank account. That's why the kids called. The kids are like, I'm going to let me speak to your manager type shit. It doesn't work like that. You have to know who holds the nuts in your market. And in a tight market like New York real estate, it's softening now, but back then it was super tight. The landlord was like, because think about it, he doesn't have to rent this apartment for 4 weeks until he's losing money. And he's already pricing it below market, and he's already given them exceptions in order to get them in, because their broker talked them up to the landlord and developed the relationship. But then he calls, and the kids call, and he's like, I don't want those people in my building. I'm tearing up the lease. I'm sending you back the checks. And the conversation's over. We're done. And I told the kids, I was like, you lost your fucking apartment. And they're speechless. And I made them wait 2 weeks to get their money back, but I gave them back the money too. Technically, I didn't have to. I got them approved on the apartment. That's what we get paid for. They could take me to small claims court. I know many brokers who do that. They're like, whether I'm on the right side of the law or wrong side of the law, if you want this money back, you're going to have to fucking do it the long way. I don't mind showing up in court, do you? Well, let's take 6 months or a year to do this. I had a guy who had multiple ones of those going on. If the clients want to be assholes, not this specific instance, but he just felt like hearing the broker. When you signed the little agreement that you're going to pay a broker's fee, it's to get you approved on an apartment. So I did contractually my job. I got them approved on an apartment. They're the ones who got themselves unapproved by running their mouth. But I had already spent the money, so I waited 2 weeks until I replaced it with another deal. And a lot of times in brokering, I just felt like quitting the whole business, because I was just like shit like this, like $5,000 in your hands, and then boom, it's gone. Because he's character. It's all about character. And then you just, like this. That's what I was relating to my back pain. You take a deep breath, you breathe into the pain, you put your head down, and you're like, oh, no one's going to fucking carry me off the court here. No one's going to carry me off the field. So you just breathe into the pain, and you just say, I'm going to fucking work harder. And that's what Brokering taught me, if anything else. It's just how to bust your ass and work through pain.